Good afternoon, welcome to the Midday Mull for Wednesday the 21st of July. Today we read Judges chapter 4, the story of Deborah, a prophet and leader of Israel. The Israelites had turned away from God and were oppressed by the Canaanites. And so Deborah comes and calls Barak and says, God's calling you to go and fight against Sisera, the leader of the armies of Canaan. And he says, well, if you go with me, I'll do it, but otherwise not. And Deborah says, well, I will go with you, but because you're not trusting God completely, he's going to give the honor of victory to a woman. And Sisera probably thought, well, he's talking, that'd be Deborah, and she's the leader of Israel anyway, so that's fine. But they go, the battle begins, and the army of Canaan is routed. Sisera, the leader of that army, is on the run, and he comes to the tent of Heber the Kenite. And Jael, Heber's wife, invites him to come in. He lies down in the tent and falls asleep. And while he's sleeping, she takes a tent peg and drives it through his head into the ground. A story that doesn't find its way into most children's Bibles. And it's certainly a story that told to a group of schoolboys in the primary school age. You can see their imaginations going, and they get this quite graphic and bloodthirsty picture. However, what struck me as I read this was the end of the chapter, where it says in verse 23, on that day, God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites. And struck me that it says God subdued him, even though it had been a battle inspired by Deborah and led by Barak. It was a normal battle, finally finished off by Jael as she kills the leader of the armies. And we sometimes think that when God acts, it'll be supernatural. And God can do that. There's stories of God sending a panic into the opposing army, and in the middle of the night, they rise against one another and slaughter each other. And when the Israelites come in the morning, the battle's over. We have stories of God sending a massive hailstorm and the hailstones falling on the enemy and killing most of them. So God can do that. But in this instance, he didn't. It was ostensibly a normal battle, fought by normal means, and a woman killing the commander ended it all. And yet it says God subdued Jabin. And it really struck me that God inevitably and almost always works through human agency. He will be doing it, but he does it through human beings. And here God subdued Jabin, but he did that through Barak, through Deborah, through Jael, using human beings for his purposes. And there's a story of that statue of Jesus that had its hands blown off, and they wanted to repair it, and the message came, no, rather put at the bottom the title, I have no hands but yours, and I have no feet but yours. And that's what Jesus says to us. If anything's going to happen in the world, he needs people to go out and do it. And we need to remember that God works through us in the world. He can work miraculously, obviously, but most of the time, he works through people like you and I. So as we share the good news, as we talk about what God has done for us, as we tell somebody about God's answered prayers, as we give something to a needy person, as we bring soup to the soup kitchen, as we join in a Bible study, all of those things that we do, God can work through us, through our agency, to achieve his purposes. And our prayer has to be, God, work in me, work with me, work through me, and grow your kingdom. That is our prayer, and that is his glory. Be blessed.